Welcome to Spinnaker Radio's On the Couch. I'm Jack Griffiths, and today we will be interviewing Jacksonville poet and lyricist Mal Jones.
Yo, what's up, Jack? How you doing, sir?
Good.
All right, man.
Mal, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on here. We've had a lot of back and forth email exchanges. I've seen a lot of your work, and I've read about a lot of the good work you've been doing for the city, so
thanks,
I'm
man.
absolutely overjoyed. But what you call it? I mean, you want to dive right in?
You could. Let's
right.
do it.
So I'd love to know, first off, what inspired you to start writing poetry?
Well, my earliest memories of what poetry was came from my father, John Jones. He was a poet. He was a jazz musician, and I woke up seeing him write music and poems, and he had a book published in the 70s.
Wow.
And I lost him very early on in life, but I was left with his literary works and what he did in the artistic realm, and this was like my anchor to do poetry and get into poetry and things like that, which led into rap and hip hop music, and it's all the literary arts,
Wow. A lot of people, they come from a literary background. They say, oh, my father was a writer. That's incredible. Like, jazz musician, poet, writer, book published. It's a shame you lost him so young, obviously,
Yeah.
but wow. When would you say you first started to write? I guess you grew up around writing, you grew up around poetry. When did you first try your own hand at writing?
Right. This would be when I moved to Florida at 10 years old. We grew up in the Bronx, New York until I was 10. And then, I moved to Florida with my mom and my twin sister. And that's when I got into really writing because, Florida's a lot slower than the city life. So you actually have time to record your thoughts and surroundings more. So I guess that's how I got into, the literary arts because, even my father's memory existed in New York City. So in order for me to kind of reminisce and recall that atmosphere while I'm living in Florida and growing up in Florida, it was through my dad and his literary work. So that's when I started getting into rhyming and kind of doing it myself because hip hop had emerged it was really getting big around that time in the 80s that I moved to, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida to be exact.
It's definitely where Fort Lauderdale is definitely not as happening as New York City. So I can absolutely imagine you had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to recollect.
Yeah, but I moved to I lived in different parts of Florida. We lived in, Fort Lauderdale at the time. It was a regular city life, and then moved to Central Florida, where it's really rural and country and stuff, and kind of that boredom led to me being interested in what I could do myself.
Stark Waldo, that kind of area, the outskirts of Gainesville, I can absolutely see how that might drive one to really look within themselves.
Yeah. From living in a big city to a town with one light in it in Florida, it kind of what you have is yourself.
Yeah.
So.
When would you say you first started getting noticed for your lyrical and poetic efforts? When did the first either from a teacher or from a competition or anything, someone really come down and notice, hey, this kid's got talent?
Yo, that's interesting because I haven't thought of that, but it's really as in school, like I love to draw. I was an artist first, and then I wanted to make stories for the characters I created because I was also like a comic book fan, like a Marvel fan, and then writing about my own characters and drawing them, was kind of like it taught me like how to write the thoughts of others. It kind of like, so that's how, that's the earliest, because I was always in a poetry, like around, like growing up, like I was always interested in it, but I didn't take it like this is what I could do till I was like in my younger teens and hip hop was emerging. So
I mean, poetry and comics have a similar goal in trying to convey images through text. So I feel it makes sense to me that that was your kind of natural evolution
right.
of art. So you were noticed in school kind of for your artistic talent?
Yeah.
Very
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
And something we've talked about prior is that after you kind of became of age, you were gradually becoming to get noticed in the local, like, municipal scene. Something I'm interested, you've mentioned to me a few times that you've worked with the city using some of your lyrics and your poetry to kind of contribute to social good. I'd love to hear about when the first kind of opportunity for that came around. Like, when did someone from Fort Lauderdale or from Central Florida or Jacksonville reach out to you and say, hey, we want to work with you on something?
Yeah, I became a professional artist in Duval. That's why I could say I'm from here.
Yeah.
Like, and this is, my, yeah. The first time I really started being an active artist was in Jacksonville. Otherwise I was just doing things for myself in my own entertainment. Then I moved to Jacksonville, got in a rap group, and it's history from there because I got in the rap group because I was a solo artist rapping myself and got in these circles and met other people who were doing it. And yeah, that right around the time I was 16 years old, this kid figuring out himself, and I used the literary arts as a way to do that, so, yeah.
Very cool. And this would have been in the late 80s, early 90s about?
This is like early 90s.
Gotcha.
I'd say early 90s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you came of age kind of in these circles, in like using lyricism in the literary arts to kind of express yourself.
Right.
That's
so
cool.
Then in Jacksonville, I had done started a cipher. I did one on air first when the radio station was 92.7 The Beat, called the Sugar Shack All Stars, where I would bring a bunch of lyricists to the radio station and they would give us like an hour to freestyle live on air.
That's sick.
And this is when they were really progressive in doing that. And after that, I got involved with like, a podcast, and I was like the hip hop cipher portion of that. And then I did that only because I wanted to bring that hip hop feel that I experienced in New York to the streets of Jacksonville. So it's like, this is really an outside community thing. That's how I understood it, because those were my earliest memories. My brother was a hip hop fan, and I would see him and I'd be like, yo, I could do this,
And if you don't mind me asking, for all the viewers out there who may be unaware, what's a cipher?
A cipher is a collection of rappers in the community that come together and then cooperate to exchange their perspective, whatever it is, in a circle of other performing artists, and you take turns, and it's it's not even, it's unsaid, but it's instant cooperation, you know. And you create, make music, you know, together in a circle, trading bars and raps and your perspective, and that's how it happens.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wish we could see more of that kind of community now among people in the arts. Like it feels like so many people who do writing or music are so kind of isolated from
Yeah.
one another. They're unwilling to like collaborate or
Right.
reach out to other people, whether out of shyness or some kind of introversion.
Right.
But that's really neat.
Yeah.
So when did, I guess this brings me to my next point. When did the city of Jacksonville, not just like, when did like the administration of Jacksonville reach out to you and say, hey, we would like to have you use your like lyricism for a PSA or a program or something? Because this is something we've talked about a lot. It's kind of just
Yeah.
the ways in which you've worked with the city.
Yeah. This was a few months ago. This, you know, a couple where I performed at the Juneteenth city celebration, and the mayor was there. And you know, after I did that, you know, I kind of was approached and about me possibly writing something for the mayor's campaign, because she has a campaign about litter and blight in Jacksonville, and I'm a strong advocate for keeping your, you know, your surroundings clean, even if it's outside, especially because that affects other people's.
That affects the whole world.
Perception. Your inside your house in your room, that could be crazy, but you know, you don't want the kids playing while trash is rolling like tumbleweed
Yeah.
in the streets. So
Getting in the water and stuff.
yeah, the fact that I was asked to do it, you know, it was an honor, and we're gonna shoot a video soon. You know, I ended up writing a little jingle that speaks to that, and we're gonna do it with the kids and the mayor coming soon. It's gonna be very dope.
Very cool. I mean, I'm absolutely a big advocate for non-littering. I worked as a groundskeeper briefly here at UNF, and I just found myself kind of disgusted by the
Yeah.
garbage that people would leave and keep. And we're on a nature preserve, like UNF's directly adjacent to one. There's all these walking trails.
Wow.
Students just treat it with such abandon. You know, beer
Yeah.
cans, cigarette butts. You know,
Right.
everything. It's disgusting. People don't seem to realize that, you know, that litter that they throw out affects an entire ecosystem
Yeah.
downstream.
Totally.
I mean, especially considering Jacksonville's on the St. Johns River, which is one of the most unique rivers in the world, one of the most
Right.
beautiful. We have dolphins, for God's sake. You know, it's
know.
like people need to be more conscious of the stuff they're throwing away. And these questions about the back and forth about the rivers brings me to my next question. You've mentioned to me before that you worked with JEA on a program called Aquapals. I'd love to
Yeah.
hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I've written 2 songs for JEA. The one is called the Aquapals program, which deals with water safety and water conservation. So,
Oh, that's so fun.
so, oh yeah, that's right here. Water safety and water conservation, and the first program is the Aquapals program that deals with water conservation, water safety, and the second program we did was the Power Pals that deals with electrical safety and, you know, energy conservation. So yeah, it was dope, man. I got reached out to about the city, and this was the first time when I was during the art walk. This probably was like 2014, 2015, and yeah, they knew about what I was advocating, and they thought I could speak to the youth of Jacksonville in this way, because that's an important issue. People's whole houses have burned down, and you know, the kids sticking things in sockets and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was able to like help them advocate for that.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to start kids young with this sort of thing, or else they grow into litter bugs or
Right.
people who accidentally burn their houses down, like you mentioned.
Right.
It's critical to kind of reach the youth on preservation and conservation and best
It's
practices.
really simple, man. It's really easy. It's not even something that's really hard to do because kids want to follow what we're on.
Exactly.
You know, they literally are. Oh, we're picking up trash today. Let's pick up all the trash.
Exactly. It's like,
You know, it's kind of easy with music and a rhythm on top of it to even, do even more when it comes to like convincing people that this is a good thing. This is what we should be doing.
it's been rhythm that touches the heart. It could even take like, a kind of, it can take any kind of message and suddenly transform it into a song, something that gets stuck in your head. It's like
Right.
that kind of rhythm, it touches, something deep within you. And I think especially for children, because they're more closely connected to their own emotions, their own feelings than adults are per se. And so when a good beat comes on, a good rhythm,
Right.
they're more inclined to listen.
Yep, absolutely. Even me and you, we still know the nursery rhymes that we learned as a child. Like
Yeah.
we're grown people and we still can call those things off like it's nothing. So it's like it's really easy when you do music to do that to a kid, It's all in what you put in their ears, and what's catchy to them.
And I feel like in an age where more and more there's negative messages reaching the youth, that kind
Right.
of thing is critical, especially with the advent of like kind of uncontrolled social media feeds, which are showing them God knows what. It's critical that we have someone like you who's willing to put a good message in on the airwaves.
Yeah, and I guess that's why Hulu and ABC had reached out to me about what I'm doing. I'm advocating for nonviolence. I'm advocating for no cursing in public spaces because that's pollution.
That's
Like
noise.
even that's pollution.
That's
So-
spiritual pollution.
Right. So you can still be good without pollution. There's still kids around and people that don't necessarily want to hear that, but they might want to hear your message.
Yeah.
So just give it to them in a way that they can take it, and that's how they found me. They were like, we can't understand how we have this crime in Jacksonville and there's these murders going on, and this is all a lot of it is centered around rap music and rap lyrics that these rappers are saying to each other, and we see that you've done like 14 years, no violence, no cursing at an art walk cipher, and they're like, yeah, that's very interesting to us, and we want to make you a part of this story. So.
And
great.
what was the show that was on again?
It's called Guns, Beef, and Bullets. It's episode 26, season 2 of a show called Impact.
Gotcha.
ABC Nightline. Yeah.
All right. I mean, that's incredible. Jacksonville is prey to, unfortunately, a large amount of violence. I've even kind of been in the vicinity. My friends and I were out at about one evening when we'd heard a string of gunshots, and we later came to find out some man had been murdered that evening. So it's like this is something that shapes our life here in Jacksonville, this prevalence of violence.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely that's a great cause to crusade for. There's one. There's two more things I'd like to ask you, and this doesn't directly connect to where our conversation's about, but it's a special topic of interest for me. You mentioned you were Jacksonville's cultural ambassador for the 500th, I believe, memorial of Shakespeare. It was the 400th. I can't remember
the
the
400th.
400th. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I love Shakespeare's plays. I'm rehearsing for one right now.
Oh, wow.
The Scottish play, which we're not supposed to say unless we
Yeah.
invite bad luck.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear more about that. I'd love to hear that
Yeah.
experience because you're crossing the ocean, you're going over to London, which I've never been out of the country before. You know, this
Wow.
is fascinating to hear about whenever
Wow.
someone travels. So like, I'd love to hear what it was like to represent Jacksonville on such a national scale.
Yeah, so that was my literal first time ever going outside of the country. You know, going to London and taking part in the 400-year anniversary of Shakespeare, and this was because the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville was involved in a sister cities program with Bristol, England, because Jacksonville, Florida, and Bristol, England are sister cities, meaning they both reside on a coastline with, you know, with the rivers that are, you know, uh, main waterways
Yeah.
in their particular city. So that's what makes them sister cities. So the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville, um, you know, asked me to take part in this 400 anniversary of Shakespeare that was in the Sister Cities program. So I went to London and recited a poem I wrote that educates people on who Shakespeare was, his poems, his life in a way, and I did that with like a rhyme, and that's how I graduated high school. You know, you're remembering what I needed to remember in whatever way I could remember it, so I can recall it when I needed to. So that's some advice for anybody, you know, any of you students that need to like recall something from memory, you know, rhyme it. That's what I, you know, try to teach the kids. You know, you can use the arts to kind of educate yourself.
That's incredible. So my last question is, what should the prospective poetry listeners, the people who are interested in arts in Jacksonville, look out for from you next? Like, what do you have next on your plans, or I guess your writings? We'd love to
Right.
hear about it.
Well, yeah, I'm currently working on the book biography, and it'll have poems, and it's gonna be yeah, it's gonna be just a collection of poems and my story, kind of an ode to my father's book, and that's what I'm currently working on now. So hopefully you guys can get that soon, because it'll have some more stuff in there, you know, that I've written, and it'll have, you know, kind of that history of growing up as an artist, coming from one city to another, going out of the country, and just kind of my experience where hip hop music has kind of like been there for me. You know, it's kind of like the mainstay in my life,
Yeah.
and you know, that's what the book will kind of like cover. Yeah, so.
And is there any platforms our viewers could potentially follow you on? Anything you'd like to, any promotions you'd like to
Yeah.
shout out for your accounts?
Yeah, I do have music out right now. I have poems out now too, but you know, I'm a hip hop artist, so you can find me on all streaming platforms. Tidal, Spotify, just Maul Jones. I've got music up there, and YouTube. You know,
Very nice.
those things you can find me. And you know, if you want to support the Lyricist Live, you want to donate to the Lyricist Live, Cash App, $ Maul Jones 1976.
Gotcha.
Yep, Maul 1976.
All right.
You can pull me right up and support positive hip hop music in Jacksonville.
All right. Well, up next, Maul's going to be reading us a selection of his poems, and we'd hope you'd listen.
The Lyricist Live, a community freestyle cipher I started in 2011 as an ode to the golden era of rap. the hip hop 90s. See, the 90s was a fine era in time where we would get together and rhyme to expand each other's minds, and I wanted to take us back to that time. A time to when the DJs played in the park. A time back when the 80s left in the Bronx, a phenomenon that bonded a whole community together. The message was peace, love, having fun, and unity forever. So as 2011 passes and this cipher makes a statement, the Florida Folk Life program sees the purpose in its preservation. 2012 to 2013, this was clear to those who know art. That's the year state folklorist Blaine Wade recognized my style as folk art. And that's when I became the first freestyle rap folk artist in history. Just doing the things that every black kid did. It's been around for half a century. Founded by a Jamaican immigrant. It's significant because of that energy brought African Americans and Latinos together to solve a crime problem collectively. You see, the South Bronx in the 70s suffered an economic crisis. Crews ran rampant through abandoned buildings. Gangs were left to their own vices. Under Gerald Ford's presidency, streets lay destitute and torn. And around all this, in 1976, me and my twin sister was born, while hip-hop culture took on this form, see. My pops was a poet and a jazz player, had me reciting Shakespeare on stage at 5. He passed away and left notes he wrote behind that gave me a sense of pride. Mom was a revolutionary from New Orleans who saw segregation in 55, vowed to move out north to NYC where black families could thrive. She had 4 boys, I made 5. I was her youngest out of 8. Make it there, we can make it anywhere. You know the phrase, we should be straight. She did everything a mother could to protect us during these days and times, but she can never predict the upcoming crack epidemic of 85. Unemployment, record high. People were struggling to survive. 75% of black teens with no job is do or die. Government tax breaks for the rich and more cutbacks for the poor. President Reagan was an actor, so I see why he cut us more. Graffiti artists like Keith Haring even got involved in the fight. Crack is whack, that's what he wrote. See how that rhymed? It caught on nice. Self-destruction, self-destruction, that's the message that resonated. They said, just say no to drugs, but messages through arts related. Elevated my mind state to help me with memorization. Mama moved us off the block trying to avoid the devastation. She got my brother and my twin sister out the city just in time to watch crack consume her daughter and my brother serve his time. While in prison, he wrote me rhymes. He told me I'd be great in Florida. Moms was struggling without pops. I had to be the man supporting her. It was torture for a couple months because we had no home. I met Jacksonville kids who spit legit and gripped the microphone. Showed me I wasn't alone, and we were plagued across state lines. Mostly what we had in common was this culture and these rhymes. Finished high school just in time for moms to see me graduate. It made her glad, cause shortly after that, she met my dad and passed away. She left me alone in Jax. That's when I saw this cycle just continue. Prisons consuming black men like melanin was on the menu. So I brought my brothers on the block to start up a conversation. Speak a truth that's heard without all of the miscommunication. No cursing, kids are watching, be a leader with dictation, put positive energy into it, and you can change your situation. Poetry, my father showed to me at just the age of 5, took me across the seas years later to do Shakespeare in my prime. Use my gift to uplift others. Can't be selfish with my shine, and use my words to plant seeds. I can't be out here wasting time. That's the message in my story, and the purpose in my grind. Support the arts, because that's what kept this lyricist alive. The title of this next poem is called Hip Hop Shakes. To blend hip hop and Shakespeare, as we honor one of the greats here. From Stratford, was an actor who wrote sonnets, poems, and plays there. His work showed extensive knowledge in medicine and astronomy, the military, the law, philosophy, even falconry. He invented 1,700 words by changing nouns into verbs, you see. He did this with illiterate parents and attended no university. Now his verses completely merges with the words and phrases we all use, and if I may, I will display not all, but a very small few. He invented the word worthless, which had never been before used. Dwindle, deafening, discontent, disheartening, and dawn too. The words marketable, metamorphosize, moonbeam, and majestic, monumental, mountaineer, premeditate, and pendant. Phrases like break the ice, or to wear one's heart on one's sleeve. Love is blind, the naked truth, either a borrower nor a lender be. If you're listening to the words I speak and think to yourself that's Greek to me, well, that would be a phrase from William's page from one of his many tragic plays. Julius Caesar, Othello, or Macbeth, Taming of the Shrew, or Romeo and Juliet. From light through yonder window breaks, and shall we not forget that on balconies that scene took place, a kiss that sealed their deaths. It all comes from the glove maker's son, a commoner, near peasant, made us ask to be or not to be, and well, yes, that is the question. Many quotes spark controversy, being there's no circumstantial evidence. Well, even the word circumstantial itself, he's accredited for inventing it. Built edifices brick by brick from words that became sentences. Then stories of love and intrigue led to death of kings by menaces. Many sonnets said inspired by the way humans behave there. So, hooray, cheer, UNF alumni. Let us make some noise for Shakespeare.